Hello?
Hey there, hello.
You caught me yet again. You caught me cooking. You really do just want a cooking course, don't you? You're not interested in strategy.
No, I mean, I'm just here for my own game, really. Yeah.
I hope you're making some of these recipes.
You know, I think I've got like some street cred to say that Mo's a terrible cook. I feel very passionate about keeping that persona up, but you putting it out there that I do these things. Anyway, I'm calling you to ask you about this next new idea, Blue Ocean. So, if from a very sort of fundamental standpoint, where do I even begin?
Okay, let me just get things going. I'm actually doing an experiment with a recipe today. So quite often I cook what you could call a turkey and apricot bake. But what I'm going to do is, because I've got a few vegetarian friends and I never know what to cook for them, so I'm actually going to change this into a vegetarian bake. So rather than a turkey and apricot bake, it's going to be a vegetables apricot bake.
Okay.
So I'm going to try it. I haven't tried this before, so we'll see what happens. So I'm creating new space in doing this in a way.
Yeah.
Which is exactly really what Blue Ocean is all about. Now remember, we've been looking at these 4 reasons where competitive advantage comes from. And we've already been through the world of Michael Porter, which is these complex activity systems. We've looked at the resource-based view, so you've got a resource that is unique, it's rare, and others can't copy, so it gives you an advantage in the foreseeable future. And we've looked at the idea of dynamic capabilities, where you're constantly creating new resource advantages. Well, we're going to that last corner of those 4 places, which is all about, well, how do you change the activities of the organisation to create new market space? Well, so it was all invented by these academics, Chan Kim and Renee, who actually I did some projects with them a decade ago when they were first starting to use Blue Ocean in a certain way. So I do like this approach. But their view is that, well, Michael Porter's wrong, but not in the way that the resource-based view guys say he's wrong. So this is not about whether it should be resources rather than activities. In fact, Kim and Malburn still in really activities, but it's what you change. Now, where they do disagree with Porter is that Porter says you've got to choose your position, and so narrow down where you focus. Well, for Chan and Renee, no, you don't have to do that. You change the industry boundaries so that your offering more closely matches all customers' needs. And so as a result of that, you're creating something that fits customers much better. They come to you because it's better value to them. But at the same time, in creating that new market space, what you don't do is just add loads of stuff. What you do is, as well as, you do add things, but you also take away factors in the proposition that customers don't really value. So you're taking away stuff, which means you've got more bandwidth to add more stuff in. And by that change, you deliver more value to customers, where it closer fits what they all want, but by taking that stuff away, you can do it at a lower cost. So it's win-win in their mind.
Let me summarize while you're cooking where we're at. First of all, some of our students think Porter's the Pope in the strategy world, so it feels really awkward saying, again, other people are disagreeing with Porter.
Yeah, this is what academics do. Yeah. They all disagree with each other.
It feels like we're drawing a picture of fighting in between these academics. Is that something that we should be okay with?
Absolutely. What's happening in academia is that you're trying to make sure that your theory is stress tested as much as possible. And so getting challenged from others forces you to have to really think through the coherence, the logic of your ideas. And so that challenge is really valuable for academics. Now, what's going on behind that is that these different theories rest on some different assumptions. And those different assumptions are quite fundamentally different. Neither's right, one's not wrong and one's right. Those assumptions, which are all valid assumptions you could make, these are very recognised philosophical stances that they've based their views on. Now, it's their view of the world. But as we know, in all social sciences, the world's too complicated to synthesise down into one particular view. So the academics will argue all the time about their theory against other theory. But as practitioners, we don't need to worry about that. Leave that to the academics. Let them go stress test and argue. What we do know, though, is that these theories come from lots and lots of thinking and research that has gone into compiling it, and is based coherently on a view of the world which is rational, it's sound, we might or might not agree with it, but it is a valid view of the world. So what we can do by adopting that academic's perspective, we can gain insight on the thing we're looking at. But we shouldn't just accept one view. In anything. Sort of go down the pub and your mate says, "Oh, you shouldn't do this." Is he an expert? Do I agree with him? Hang on, I'd like to get a second opinion. Something's wrong with you. Go to a doctor. Well, you might send you off to a consultant for a second opinion. So you say, "Well, thanks, Michael. I understand the coherence and why you're thinking what you do, and that's given me some great insight as we got out on JetBlue. But if you don't mind, I'm also going to go and hear what Jay Barney and Pran Hamill say about this from a resource perspective." Well, that tells me something as well. Oh, that's interesting. If I put those two insights together, I got even better understanding of what's going on. But also, the guy who's been working in the business for donkey's years, he's seen lots of stuff before, he's got all that tacit knowledge. Well, he's going to have a valid perspective on this as well. So what you're trying to do is bring these views into the discussion, the conversation, the decision-making team is going through, and in having wider perspectives, they're better informed, they make better decisions. You're more likely to be successful as a result. So that's why we just accept. We accept these different perspectives. But I think you'll like the Blue Ocean one. You quite like this sort of creation of new space and innovation.
I think actually, full disclosure, this is like my favourite bit of the whole module really. Talking about Blue Ocean and then also just shop innovation. But what you said so far in terms of Blue Ocean, you said that there's a key premise that instead of finding a position within an existing market, we should actually try and create a brand new market.
Exactly. What we're doing is that in most industries, amongst most managers' firms, those industry boundaries are seen as set. They've existed. This is the way you've done. Say you're a motor manufacturer. This is the way you've made cars forever. You take for granted the definition of the market, say for family cars. You don't even challenge it. And then within that definition, there are certain things that you don't even question. It's got four wheels on the corner and a steering wheel. There's an engine at the front these days, very few at the back, and it's going to supercars. There are certain things when you're designing a car, they're taken for granted.
So in the Blue Ocean strategy, the first thing is we're challenging that assumption.
Exactly, but it's easy for us. So when we look at a market as outsiders, all our students look at a market which they're fresh to, well, you're not so steeped into that way of thinking that the management of that market will be. But when you've been in an industry for years, it's very difficult to step out of that. And so what Kim and Malvern are doing is are trying to give you the tools to make you challenge those industry boundaries. And if you're, often the customer also accepts those industry boundaries. So they're not even thinking that there's something better they could be served with. They've sort of accepted, that's the way it is. Don't even think it's wrong. So Blue Ocean is saying, well, look, over time, the proposition from an industry has probably drifted out of fit with what customers really want or need. And the customers themselves might not know it. But incumbents can't always see that. So in their research, it was, well, is there a way in which we can, as a company, think differently about the market, the industry, so that we can step outside of that And in doing that, with everyone else still stuck in the existing way of thinking, create this new blue ocean space. But since it's very difficult, we need to give you a process to do this with. In many ways, the actual core ideas behind it are very simple, where the difficult part is, well, difficult, the bit you've got to know in detail, is the process that they suggest to make you think outside of existing industry boundaries.
Okay, great. So let's, how do I think outside the box then?
Okay, so, well, the first thing, in this process, what you're doing is you're putting yourselves into the shoes of different players. Okay? So the first thing you always do in this process is you put your shoes into the world of the managers in that existing industry. Obviously, for those if you're doing this in a company, you're already there. But as researchers or students, manager's perspective. So you're thinking to start with about what they worry about in competing against other firms. Okay, so
I'm a manager. And then I say, okay, well, what am I worried about in terms of, what are the aspects I am?
Yeah. So how do you think you're going to win against the competition? Now, and in that, there's obviously price is going to be a factor. There's going to be obviously elements of the actual product or service, but there's also going to be things about the way you produce your product or service. There's going to be a raft of areas which you think, well, actually, I have to succeed on each of those. If you're in the hotel industry, for example, well, price per room.
I now have a hotel called, I don't know, Mo Hotel.
Mo Hotel.
And it's basically like, let's pick Holiday Inn.
So you get to Holiday Inn, it's a pretty good hotel, and you turn up in your taxi, or in your case, your chauffeur-driven limousine.
With Biggie Smalls playing in the back. Let's get it right here.
You got the courtesy staff open the door for you, and sir, please come in. Then you get your bags for you. You get the guy at the door in the uniform opens the door for you. You walk into this prestigious lobby with these comfortable chairs, and there's a booking desk for tours of the city and booking yourself tickets. You have to queue up to check in at the.
I don't mind queuing up. Yep, I'm there.
Person takes your passports and all the information.
Yeah.
You have to fill in a form, checks you in, and then the luggage guy takes your bags. You get shown up to your room. The Holiday Inn, so your room is pretty big, and it's got TV, etc. Probably a restaurant associated with the hotel. Since it's Four Seasons or Holiday Inn, it's probably a 5-star hotel. So on all those factors, it's going to be high. Across all those factors.
So the lobby would be just gigantic. Checking in centers would be even more, gorgeous. The rooms would be like flats. TV would be like ridiculous. Huge TV. I'm only staying there for one night, but hey, it doesn't matter. I'm paying for a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, and location. It's going to be right next to the sites you want to go to see.
Next to Buckingham Palace.
It is Buckingham Palace.
Okay, cool. So we have now described an industry.
Yeah, but you pay a high price. 3-star hotel, the whole thing drops down. Mrs. Miggins' bread and breakfast, 1 star, even lower.
Yeah. Those are sort of, if this was an industry, these are the typical features of the dynamics of this industry.
Competing factors. Because the Four Seasons and the Hilton would vie with each other to have the most prestigious lobby, the best service amongst its bellhops, the most comfortable lounge, the biggest TV, the biggest room, etc. So they all fight on those same factors. And so if you take it to my analogy of when I was cooking, my turkey and apricot bake. So my turkey and apricot bake, well, it's turkey, not too expensive, but it's not as cheap as chicken. So in terms of the cost to me, let's say that in terms of the price, well, medium. Well, I've got turkey in there. Well, it's not going to be turkey and apricot bake without turkey, so I've got a lot of turkey on there. Obviously, I've got apricots. Well, they're actually dried apricots, which I chop up. So there's quite a lot of that. Use spring onions in there. I sort of create a cheese sauce in there. Preparation time. Well, I've got to cook the turkey properly. I've got to coat the turkey in flour. I've got to do a whole load of stuff, so the preparation time is quite long. Cooking time, because it's a bake, it goes in the oven after I've prepared it, which is fairly long. Now, every time I make turkey and apricot bake, all those factors are part of the cooking process. I could skimp a bit on it and lower the quality of it, I suppose, but the whole factors would still be the same. So exactly the same as those hotels. So what Kim and Malvern introduced is something called the strategy canvas. And strategy canvas is a way in which you can show that in a picture. So it's effectively a graph which shows on the vertical axis it's the absolute level of what the offering is. So how much turkey, how many spring onions, how much flour, how much time. Or in the hotel, well, just what's the measure of how prestigious that lobby is? What's the training of the bellhops? How many square feet is the size of the room? How big is the television set? So that's absolute level. So it's the level of those factors. And then along the horizontal axis are all those factors in turn. So you create a graph. So if you looked at the hotel industry, you'd have a line for 5-star hotels, you'd have a line for 3-star hotels, you'd have a line for 1-star hotels. Now that's called the as-is value curve. So first thing you do as a manager or analysis is construct that as-is value curve. So what you've done, you said, right, how do I see this industry from the perspective of a manager?
Alright, so what we've now done is that in order to apply this POC thinking to redefine rules of the game, it is saying that we should first of all figure out what the key factors that they compete on. So that could be, we use the hotel as an example in terms of the typical lobbies and rooms or whatever. And if there's a cooking analogy, then the typical ingredients and how each quality of the process that you use. So and you said that if they're all competing from, say, a 1-star hotel to a 5-star hotel, they're competing on the same factors, but they're just they accentuate each one. So they're all competing on the same parameters or something, whatever you call it. Okay, so that's as is. So what's the
right? So the next thing we do is we're going to swap our perspective. Right, we're leaving the manager behind. We now go and look at it from the perspective of customers.
I'm a customer now, and I'm going into my hotel.
Thinking, right, when I encounter this service, what are the pain points that I encounter? Now, the key is you're really trying to get under the skin of what customers' experience is of whatever you're offering. Now, this is where they offer their second tool. So it's called the buyer utility matrix. And I guess you could say, when I talked at the beginning about how you have pigeonhole theories that make sure you think about all the different areas and don't forget stuff, or makes you think outside of where you think things are going on. So you are taking the blinkers off where you're thinking, well, this is one of these. So the buyer utility matrix, 2 dimensions to it. On the horizontal axis of this grid is the stages of the buyer journey. So from buying whatever it is, to using it, to maintaining it, to disposing of it. So you're working through the different stages. Now already, in a retail business, most managers probably only just think about the buying bit. They don't think about what happens afterwards. So you're really trying to step out of their current industry views. Just need to add these in. So that's the horizontal. That's the horizontal axis.
Yep, and then the other one?
And the other one is what's called the buyer utility levers. These are effectively where does the customer get value out of something. And they talk about, it's really just going to make you think differently about what's going on. And they talk about the productivity to customers. In using this, do they make them, how productive are they? How simple is this to engage with and to use? How convenient is it to access it? Does it make it more risky in terms of what they're doing by having it? What about the fun or image side of engaging with this proposition? And then what about the environmental impact? And so what you do when you're doing this in a real project is that you'll think about each of those intersecting boxes. Okay, so in purchase, if we look at it from a productivity angle, or convenience, is it inconvenient for customers to access this? When they're using it, is it environmentally friendly? What are the risks involved?
So the bioutility sort of matrix is a way for us to sort of put our shoes in the customers and see where, if we as a business are thinking of every aspect of that customer's journey, and where we can, I guess, you have to use this word pain point. What do you mean by a pain point?
Well, where it's not really meeting your needs. So let's just talk about it from the hotel. Give you an example. Right, you walk into the hotel. Now you've booked already. What's the first thing you have to do?
Queue up.
You've got to queue up to check in. Exactly. So that's the pain point. Now you accept it as being the norm. That's what you do when you get to a hotel. But hang on, I'm queuing up to check in. It's even worse when you leave the hotel. You've got to queue up to check out. It's double.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have booked online, presumably. I do own that room because I've paid the money. So why am I? That's a good one. So that is a pain point. It's unnecessary for me to be queuing up. Alright, so I've queued up now. I've got my thing, and then I go upstairs, right?
You go upstairs and you go to your room. You get to your room and find I've got to pay extra for the internet.
I don't want to do that.
It's all very expensive. If you've gone for a cheaper hotel, well, the location of the hotel is not as convenient to where you want to be.
That's annoying thing. I remember going to London, and they're like, "Oh yeah, book a hotel in London." It's literally miles from anywhere I actually want to be when I booked it. So location is a pain point if that's the thing.
Well, unless you go to a 5-star hotel and you've got no problem on a budget, perfect. But who can say that?
No, but I ain't got. If we have a hotel in better locations, that'll be good. That's possible, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pay that money. I don't want to pay that much.
And it's a huge room. Although, do you need a huge room?
Yeah, most of the time I don't actually. I mean, if I'm going for a super luxury, that's one thing. If I'm going to book a hotel in another city, I only need the bed. I don't need. I don't need the whole thing.
Yeah, and you want a decent shower, but in a 3-star hotel, you might find the showers over the bath and doesn't work very well. You're sort of trying to get under how tall I am, trying to get under the shower. And I'm in London. Do I want that restaurant? No, there's nice little bistro down the road, or going to a pub or whatever. So why am I paying for that floor space? These are what I'm talking about when I'm in pain points. And by thinking of it from this grid, it makes you think about it in ways you haven't previously thought about it, particularly if you work in that industry. Because you've taken all this for granted as the way in which you compete. So for me, cooking my experiment, so rather than turkey and apricot bake, right? So I'm thinking about, well, what are the pain points around turkey and apricot bake? Well, in terms of convenience, well, I've got to especially go and buy turkey. I don't keep turkey in the fridge all the time. I keep vegetables in the fridge all the time. I don't keep turkey in the fridge all the time. That preparation with having to coat bits, chocolate turkey and coat them in flour, well, that's not very productive in what I do. Turkey, it's meat. Well, should I be cutting down on the amount of meat I'm using? As we said, well, if I was cooking this for friends, then, well, what happens if one of them is vegetarian? So there's a risk in making a turkey and apricot bake. And as a result, well, maybe I haven't got as many friends as I. So my image, perhaps, by cooking something vegetarian, does my image go up a bit rather than cooking turkey?
More trendy then, you don't know.
But, these are potential pain points you might be thinking about as an analogy.
Okay, so, just to, I got that now. So in terms of our strategy canvas then, Dave?
No, strategy canvas is from the manager's perspective. The as is strategy canvas. The by utility matrix is what you use to look at it from the customer perspective.
So as from a customer's perspective, in terms of the hotel and then the cooking sample, we've mentioned things that are actually very different in terms of what we actually want from the customer's perspective.
Absolutely. So what have you got? You've got a view of how the industry currently views itself and operates, and you've got a view of where the customer pain points are. You've identified a gap you're now aware of, which you probably weren't aware of before you were doing this exercise. Certainly if you were a manager in this industry. For us, we might say, oh, it's obvious, isn't it? But it's not for people whose day in, day out, whole career has been in this industry. Okay? So that means we can now start brainstorming about, well, how do we change things on that canvas to make that proposition not create those pain points. So in this, Kim and Malone go through offer this brainstorming technique called the 6 paths. Now, as an analysis tool, we're not going to use this, but they're just different lenses that you brainstorm around. Well, if we looked at it from that perspective, what could we change which would deal with those pain points? On the basis of that, you then come up with what they call the ERIC grid. But actually, that's not true. They call it the ERRC grid. I call it the ERIC grid because, well, 2 reasons. One, it's easier to remember. And the second thing, when I did that work with them, it annoyed the consultants to call it.
Dave. Well, I totally comply with that. That's cool.
But what it stands for, if we just go to ERIC, what ERIC stands for is eliminate, reduce, increase, create.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so what you do is you then, as you look at your brainstorming, you say, right, well, what factors do customers really not value at all? So in that hotel example, the bellhop, if you're travelling light, well, do you want someone to carry your luggage? No. Do you want that restaurant in the hotel? No. Okay, use it. Why on earth do I want that?
The cost of the restaurant shouldn't fall on my shoulders. I'm not intending to use it.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
A lot of money right there. That's good. So we eliminated that.
Well, what about reducing stuff as well? So how about the size of the room? You don't need all that space. You just want a bed. You want a comfortable bed and a shower.
It has to be a nice bed.
But you don't need all that space. So let's reduce the size of the rooms. That's great because eliminating the restaurant. Well, and probably reducing the size of the lobby. We don't need that prestigious lobby space, so reduce that as well. Reduce the size of the room. That means you can get more rooms into this hotel, and you're using less space, land space, real estate. So the cost of buying and building this hotel is going to be less, which means that you can save money, and you can share that with lower prices, taking more profit, and offering to increase and create factors that they do want. So in terms of increase, you say, well, actually, for 3-star price, we've reduced the rooms, got rid of the restaurant, reduced the size of the lobby, lower build costs. We can afford to put better quality beds and showers into these smaller rooms. So you're increasing bed comfort. And then you could say, well, we can create stuff. Well, how about if you're working away from home, long period away from home, you maybe just want to hang out somewhere, get a drink, etc. So we'll put in sort of some quirky sitting areas and create that. So we've eliminated and reduced stuff. That's reduced costs, but it's allowed us to add stuff which more closely matches what customers want, and also at the same time make more money.
So basically, this is getting nice, Dave. So instead of having a sort of set of factors that hotels are competing on their different styles, same issues, but just sort of accentuating each one. What we're doing is we are creating a very steep reduction in some areas that they compete against, almost eliminating some and reducing others, and then increasing by a probably much more amount to a comparative hotel. So they actually create value more, so it aligns closer to what the customers actually want.
Absolutely.
And hence, this is crazy.
So therefore, on the factors you care about, you get 5-star standard. On the factors you don't care about, well, there's nothing at all, or it's 1 or 3-star standard.
So in terms of me, if I was to create a brand new hotel, we'll have better locations. I care about that.
You need less space, so you can afford that real estate right next to Tower of London or wherever you want to go.
Buckingham Palace, yeah. To sleep next to the Queen. And then also, what is it called? I want free internet. It won't be part of my price, definitely. I want also 1 million channels on there. Why am I paying them? I may not use them, but that's not something I care about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I care
You can
about
have
stuff.
them both.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. So we've got more of the things that I'm actually going to use, not just the hotel looks really pretty.
And so in terms of
Gone.
I've eliminated the turkey from this recipe. I've slightly reduced the amount of apricots I'm using because vegetables are a bit sweeter, so I don't need so many apricots. I've reduced the preparation time, and indeed, the amount of I'm having to worry about the cooking at the moment is much less than I'd have to if I was cooking turkey. So I've reduced that. I've slightly increased the amount of cheese I'm going to put in here. But I've created new ingredients in the fact that I've put mushrooms and broccoli, sweet corn and peas into the cooking. So I've reduced stuff, and overall, actually, it's costing me a lot less to make this, because vegetables are much cheaper than turkey.
Yeah.
But in terms of value, well, if a vegetarian comes to see me, I can serve this up and say it's closely matching to what I need.
That's good. So we have now, in terms of the hotel industry, created a new market space. Because we are no longer competing on the same factors that the industry generically competes on. So we have sort of played new rules. So we are looking, Kim and Mom will talk about the red ocean, blue ocean. So we're no longer competing against other hotels on the same issues, trying to be better than each other in terms of the lobby and the size of the rooms or whatever. We said no, actually the customer really appreciates these things more than these other things. So the value or the cost that we would have spent on something, we've reduced that down and then given it back to them closer to the way they want. So if I'm a customer and I find this magical hotel that gives me more of what I want for the same money, I'm there.
Yeah, and there's a hotel that's done this.
What? Dave, I was about to leave this job. I was about to quit.
It's called Citizen M Hotel, and Citizen M Hotel is a Dutch company that started doing this right next to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, then did one of these in downtown Amsterdam, but it's now got 3 hotels in London. And so there's one literally right next to the Tower of London, there's one right next to the Tate Modern, and there's one up in Shoreditch, a really cool area.
So they're there, I'm there. So they have these features there?
Yeah, they have these features. And it's 5-star standard on those things and 3-star price.
Wow, that's brilliant then. Thank you.
So what you then, final step of the process, is you then depict that change onto the target value curve. So you take your as-is strategy canvas and then you add in your curve for your new proposition. And why you do that is because visually it's much easier to sell that into the business. So everyone knows what you're trying to do. It's great for communicating to people in the business what you're trying to, well, not just people in the business, what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, I think there's
things like this that just really does blow my mind, Dave. Like we can look at this, you can have a piece of theory and you can actually make businesses think very differently about their own product or service. Oh, so did you finish cooking that day? Sorry.
Almost. I've now got to start just finishing off in making. You have to mix up the breadcrumbs with cheese. So when you spread the breadcrumbs over the top of the mixture, and the cheese in amongst the breadcrumbs binds the topping together and makes it into this crispy top to what you're cooking. Okay, and so it's probably ready by now. Let's get it out of the oven. And there we have vegetable and apricot bake.